Hey, so literally in the last 5 minutes, I've just seen this shocking news from New Zealand. I'm literally just watching the news now. It's being covered on international headlines. This is BBC News 24. Just to show you the screen. Um, so I muted the TV there because the volume doesn't come through anyway, but it appears there's been a major terrorist attack in New Zealand in Christchurch. There's been a mass shooting at two mosques in that city. 49 people are dead, dozens more are injured. So this is a major terrorist attack. And I think that's a totally apt way to describe it because the attackers have been described as far right. So therefore, it's ideologically driven. That fits the definition of terrorism. Whereas violent, like a spray shooting, which is a workplace incident or something like that, isn't terrorist. But I mean, this is particularly shocking for New Zealand, which I think is fair to say is considered a very progressive country and a very safe country overall. Um, Three suspects are in custody. The attack appears to have been planned. Controlled explosions have been carried out nearby. Much of the city of Christchurch is in lockdown. Suspects, this is just from the BBC News update. One man has been charged with murder, one person detained but was not involved. One shooting was live streamed. An apparent manifesto has been circulating online. Document contains anti-Muslim comments. Reports suspect said, "Let's get parties started." Horrendous. Um, if this does transpire to be a far right attack, and I should say this is like breaking news. Um, so often with these things, different reports circulate around, but all the information seems to indicate there was a far right attack. Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister, has called this New Zealand's darkest day. And certainly it's the most violent act of carnage anywhere in not just New Zealand, but I would say Oceania, Australasia in modern times. Um, I'll just quote here what the Prime Minister said. What has happened in Christchurch is an extraordinary act of unprecedented violence. It has no place in New Zealand. Many of those affected will be members of immigrant communities. Theresa May's commented, "On behalf of the UK, my deepest condolences to the people of New Zealand after the horrifying terrorist attack in Christchurch. My thoughts are with all those affected by this sickening act of violence." Um, Donald Tusk, harrowing news from New Zealand overnight. The brutal attack in Christchurch will never diminish the tolerance and decency that New Zealand is famous for. Our thoughts in Europe are with the victims and the families. Um, my goodness me. Uh, Imran Khan, shocked and strongly condemned the Christchurch, New Zealand terrorist attacks on mosques. This reaffirms what we've always maintained, that terrorism does not have a religion. Prayers go to the victims and their families. I don't agree with that, what he's just said, incidentally, but that's probably for another video. Um, what direction are we going in? I'm not going to make this very analytical, but I'll just close with a few thoughts. Like I say, this is ongoing. There has been a series of violent far right attacks in democratic countries in recent years. The Norway attack of 2011, 77 killed. The attack on the mosque in Quebec City in Canada in 2017, 6 killed. We've had far right violence here as well. This is becoming a very sinister situation where it's almost like Islamist violence competing with far right violence, and they're both feeding each other. Um, this doesn't mitigate the threat from Islamist violence. It doesn't mitigate the threat of Islamist extremism, but it does reiterate that we cannot be complacent about the threat from other extremism, i.e., white supremacy, i.e., anti-Muslim extremism. And I mean, this is ongoing. 49 confirmed dead, that could well rise. That equals the toll of the Orlando indeed, for that matter. It equals the toll of the Orlando attack, actually. Although that was, of course, an Islamist attack against the gay community. But my goodness, what direction are we going in? If a country like New Zealand can experience something like this, it's horrendous. I'll probably make update videos on this, but I'll leave it there for now. Horrendous. Just thoughts of followers who are wounded and who are waiting for news of loved ones.